Hello and welcome to Ukversus episode 4, I believe. We'll be looking. We've
Yes,
got
it is episode 4. Hello, everyone.
joined by Richard Miller, Shin enthusiastic beyond extraordinaire, and the UK head judge, Mr. Michael Murray.
All right, guys, how you doing?
Good.
Yeah, I'm all
We had
good.
a fairly good weekend. How have you guys been?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just back from holiday, so I'm just kind of got a bit of holiday lurg, so I'm a bit croaky.
I'm just enjoying the sunshine up here. This 1 week of the year that the north actually gets some.
Yeah, it's been quite warm down here
You
as
get
well.
sun up north? I don't think that's a thing.
Yeah, man.
So we have upgraded the stream, so we have chat a little bit more accessible for me as well, because I know Richard watches it live. But so just a quick hello to Mr. Andrew Kong,
Hello.
who had their own provisional not too long ago. So quickly touching on the event that happened on the weekend, how are we feeling about the return of Gamer Toga?
Yeah, I mean, I think she's had a lot of upgrades, right? Futures now is really good, and like there's a plenty of other cards that help fill that up to 5 thing. Like, and I think it's probably just the format's a bit more open now, so it's a bit more friendly to sort of stuff like that. Like she can just put out a lot of damage in one turn, right? And I think against Recovery Girl, like in a world against Recovery Girl, she probably does very badly because just doesn't do enough damage and just gets dies to the inevitable few throws. But webcam Recovery Girl probably wasn't going to be that popular, so again, it would have been a good event for it.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of seconding what you're saying now. I don't think Recovery Girl would have been a smart choice on webcam. Webcam games traditionally are a little bit slower paced anyway, and Recovery Girl, I'd be surprised if they finish game one. So
Yeah,
seeing Toga getting played wasn't that shocking. It's nice to see a Toga actually taking down an event.
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, we saw Uwabami in the top 4. We saw Nomu make it back to top 4. We saw Eraserhead number 2 in the top 4. I think for probably the first time.
yeah. I'm sure. I'm pretty sure that's the first top cuts when I was ahead too.
Yeah,
Look decent. I saw it a couple of times briefly on stream.
I have a local that plays Eraserhead 2, and she's had me on the ropes a few times with it. She's a very strong player. I've never doubted that Eraserhead 2 could get there with a bit of love, and it was proven over the weekend that Eraserhead 2 can do some silly stuff when given the right package. But
Yeah, and we
Yeah,
had Armor 1 make top cuts as well.
yes, Ariama
yeah,
one.
that was nice to see.
Yeah,
It's been a long time since we've had anyone at my locals at least playing with Ioma 1. So
The
I'm keen to
biggest,
see that list.
yeah, I'm sure. Hopefully, those will get done this week. I know Lonoko is currently trying to divide his time between Street Fighter 6 and getting his work done, but it's a hard battle. But the big
yeah,
reveal of the weekend was the Chromes.
yeah. They look pretty sick. I mean, I have no real expectation of ripping one, but yeah, they all look pretty good. Um,
If you could
I-
choose to rip one, which one would you want in your collection?
oh man, I feel like um, that one, the Stalagmite Piercer, is probably the one I might play the most. I think the um, the Kraken one looks the best.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just
the vast hybrid Chimera Kraken just ab- absolutely slaps. I
Yeah,
know that my friend Rob is now crying because he has to buy 4 Spiral Blasts no matter what.
so funnily I
yeah,
was flicking through them there and I'm thinking Spiral Blasts would be the one I chose purely because if I open a Chrome or anyone in my locals opens a Chrome, the plan is just to flip it instantly for as
Yeah,
much money as you can.
yeah.
yeah,
I want to go to US Nationals, and my plan is open a Chrome and then slam that Chrome onto the online and pay for me to go to US Nationals.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a lottery ticket for for our guys at least.
I
Um,
mean, I think a lot of people probably feel that way about them, right? It's like some people will try and collect them. I'm sure there are going to be people out there that are going to do a Mr. Hardiman and get their 4 copies to get out, pimp out a deck like he did with the Vol Seasons.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
With more money than I have, quite frankly.
I think,
But yeah, they look sweet.
Yeah,
And if they're playable, that's great. I mean, let's be honest, they can't be any worse in terms of different from normal cards than, say, redemption cards, because they're quite a lot different than standard booster pack ripped ones, right?
And yeah, Richard's touched on a very controversial issue at the moment, in that we don't know the legality of crumbs. Mr. Murray was very kind to share a nice little screenshot, which I'll just put up on the screen, where we've got confirmation that Jelly put on Discord that chromes will be legal to be included in decks, but we have also had confirmed that they do feel and weigh different than other cards, and that could be classed as stacking your deck.
So is this a confirmation for these 5 chromes feel and way different? Because I know the characters definitely did.
So
yeah, I believe someone had said in the stream when they revealed them that they have improved the process, so they shouldn't feel any different in terms of in a sleeve, effectively.
But if you look at the video, and if you look at the way they're talking about quality assurance, they were saying you could drop these cards, you could essentially throw them, and they won't bend, they won't damage.
Okay.
And that to me feels like they're made of hardier stock than the average play card. And no matter what you do to a basic flatboard cardboard card, it is always going to feel different than a card that has essentially got a metal coating over it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just they're gonna have to wait and see, right?
Yeah.
What the official ruling comes out of, and when people start ripping them and how they feel.
We've got someone in the chat saying, I've already done my psychopathic thing with Toga XRs as a Chrome, just for money back.
Yeah.
That'll be Adam, one of my locals, who's, I think at this stage, he's like 1 dual needle lunge XR away from fully pimping out all these Toga XRs.
Oh, damn.
All of Toga 2's XRs.
I'm a fair few dabby cards off having them all, but I've got 6 XR cremations and 6 promo cremations.
Amazing.
Yeah. I don't XR out anything. I just want the cards. I'm not too old to be worrying about pimping stuff.
But are you going to XR out your Shin collection?
I might do. That might.
So that brings on to the next segue. We do have the head UK judge, arguably the best judge in the UK. Also, content creator through the Dobbers as part of UF Scotland, who we were recording some of the EU REL yourselves. Very excited to see those games go out, mainly because one of them is mine.
I know that one of the judging staff is actually really excited about your game going out.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I'm going to touch on a little bit later on. But tell us a little bit about yourself and how the Universus scene is up in Scotland, because I know you guys have been struggling a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm Michael Murray, better known on the internet as Murray. I've been playing UFS for about 15 years, give or take. I started just after Penny Arcade released, dropped off at Tekken set that was done by Fantasy Flight Games, and came back just in time for Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Edition. So I've been playing the game for a long time, and I believe that's the only reason that I was given seniority over some of the guys for being head judge. I definitely wouldn't put myself as the defining voice for the UK or Europe or anything.
I mean, you have been head judge at Nationals and the RLE now, so you're kind of holding the title by default.
So I wasn't head judge at the Webcam Nationals. That was actually Kyle.
You were the head UK representative.
Oh yeah, I believe I was the only UK representative. But yeah, it's been good. The judging the event's fun. It helps me keep engaged with the community, especially when I'm not as bothered about playing in the My Hero only format. But
more of an old head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't rant about it too much, but I'm waiting for the chance that I can win a character card again, and then you'll see me at events. I've had kind of a little bit of wink wink confirmation that we'll be seeing it again at some point.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
You spoke about Cal being the head judge at the EU Nationals last year. I spoke to him after the event last year, and the biggest thing he said about UK players was he felt like they were doing his job for him. They'd call a judge, and by the time he got to the table, the issue had been resolved and they were already playing. And he was like, "Why'd you call me?" He's like, "Oh, because we had to call a judge, but we knew the procedure, so we did the procedure, got on with it, and we just want you to confirm everything's fine as we keep playing." And he's like, he just couldn't understand. Like, oh yeah, okay, I wasn't really needed for that call.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't want to belittle any of the players in the States or anything, but I've always felt that the UK community, at least, is a lot more wholesome and a lot more on the ball. We're quick to put our hands up and go, you know what? I created a irreparable game state. We can fix this. I'll concede. We'll go to the next game. Or they're quite honest with if someone draws one too many cards, they don't try and hide it. They instantly say, or if they've seen an extra card in their deck, they'll instantly say. It's quite a relaxing experience actually judging over here.
Good. And like, we're from the UK, it's totally okay for us to be superior over the US guys. Like, you know,
Oh yeah,
that's just what we do.
It's also a case of not to diminish us as a community, but as we're about a third the size of the US nationals. So when you are a smaller community and everyone knows each other, it is a lot easier to be relaxed and wholesome and just be able to go, "It's okay, mate. I'd rather let's just get on with it. We know the mistakes were resolved by the rules. Let's just keep going." Or a case of, "Oh, you missed a response there, buddy. Do you want to take the response?" And just have that more relaxed atmosphere, because it is a small community and everyone kind of knows each other.
Yeah, and there's a bit of it where it is that small community. You don't want to be that kind of rules lawyery, sharky kind of thing, and push people out of what is already a smallish community, right? You want to be welcoming. You want to be drawing people in and growing it, rather than reducing what is already comparatively small. When you look at, you know, the other big games like Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, all that sort of stuff.
That's exactly it. Like, I think as a community, we're quite welcoming, maybe to a fault at some points. There's been more than one case that I've seen a player give their opponent the win because they're helping them understand the way that responses should happen or enhances should happen. And it's looking at John Paul from Bearded Card Trader specifically, who straight up taught one of my players how to play his deck at a national level event and proceeded to get himself beat because of it. We're going to have those kind of nice people in this small community.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I say.
And that's good, right?
One of the things I say to my opponents, not generally at the national level, but at RLE or provisional level, it's a case of, I'm happy for you to take back things you should have done. I'd rather lose to you because my deck. I'd rather beat you because my deck is better than you and I played better than you, than you made obvious mistakes that you wouldn't have done if you weren't nervous or you weren't in this kind of situation where there's a lot of pressure for you.
Oh, that's exactly it. As far as my local community, we're kind of on the small end now. I want to say I'm saying on the small end. I think there's some smaller communities out there, but we're in the range of like between 4 to 8 people for locals each week. I'm saying locals loosely because it's just casual events that I'm having to set up in the UGN because we're struggling to get a store up here to take it seriously. Not to humble brag or anything, but as much as people know Patriot as the centre point of UFS or Universus in the UK, it was actually a Glasgow-based store, Max XP, which was the first international premier store for Jaskell. And that's because our community just came up with such force. There was so many of us at one point, and we were kind of the focal point for.
I have seen on the Dobbers YouTube channel that you've got a lot of like live action events that took place in Scotland, and it seemed like to be a massive central hub for it. And like I said, Patriot is a massive name in all card games within the UK. I don't think there's a single person who plays card games that doesn't know of Patriot. But it's really interesting to, like you say, see that there's this kind of like massive player base up in Scotland that kind of is still untapped because it's just not the stores up there can't do anything. Uh,
Well, we were there at one point. It'd be interesting to see if we can get stores to support us again up here, how many people come back out the woodwork,
Yeah,
and see how much of a community we really get to build again.
after the hourly, I did have a conversation with Paul about how we can grow players because he wants because Jasco want a 25% player increase for the next one,
Yeah,
which a few people have said that to. Didn't respond in the most nicest way, just like laughing for about a straight 10 minutes. But yeah, I just said to him, if you want to do that, you need to hit the areas that are not getting star support: Wales, Scotland, southwest of England, all the places that when you look on a map of UGN have got absolutely no events going on there. That are either tabletop games that are just casual for LP, or just have players out there that are looking for stars to support them, but the stars don't want to take the risk.
it's not like I kind of feel bad, right? It's not, for the lack of a better way to describe them, new Jasco's fault. The old version of Jasco, the way that you had to go through the Premier Store program, and you had to have like two boxes each of the four most recent sets in store at all time, and they could contact you at any point to ask for a photograph evidence. Otherwise, you might not got your event kit. And don't get me wrong, the event kits were free. The Premier Store program offered amazing benefits because I know this because I helped set it up for my local, and they were really good to work with. But there was a lot of these little like, nickel and diamond bits on paper that looked really intimidating, and that put off stores up here. We only had one central hub, which was Max XP. Beyond that, we couldn't get a store to touch the game other than stock the occasional booster box.
That's fair.
So,
I'm.
I think there's a. I was going to say I think the big change they're making, one of the big changes they're making with set 5, I think should help. So, with the product as it is, people just tend to sort of buy their boxes right on release, and then they get their cards, then they might fill it out with singles, and then they're done. Like there isn't much kind of looking at it from a retail perspective. There's probably not too much turnover of just kind of buying the odd pack, right? There's probably not too much of that, so there's not huge amounts of incentive for them to keep stock. But with set 5, as we've seen, like they're making a lot more of a push to make sets more limited friendly, more
yeah,
draft sealed friendly. And that's where you get more of a benefit for those stores because they're getting the turnover of people cracking packs, right? So that it makes sense for them to keep boxes in because, hey, we're doing a draft this evening. That's a box out the door if you've got like 6 to 8 players, right?
Exactly, and sealed is a provisional format as well. I know my local store wanted to do a sealed provisional, but couldn't get a hold of product on the dates they wanted it for, which is a shame. But set 4 and set 5 are definitely more sealed and draft friendly, especially with the changes to the where you get characters now.
Yeah.
So limited formats have always been a great passion of mine, regardless of the game I'm playing. So we did have we had like regular draft. It could be whatever set for the game you wanted. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
It could be whatever set you wanted. Some sets were awful to draft, but my guys were always like, it's a Monday night, we're going to draft. So we did have a great turnover of single booster packs, but I totally get where you're coming from. Like the random store on the high street that's just sitting with boxes of set 1, and it's because they've opened a box at one point for one guy to buy 2 packs, and then those packs sit there because singles have been purchased.
Yeah.
Well, if you're free in 2 weeks, Murray, we'd love to have you back on because we're going to go through our opinions on sealed and pre-release play and what the best strategies are to move going forward and how to build a sealed deck. So if you're free in 2 weeks, you're more than welcome to come back and give us a legacy opinion on how to play UFS Universus sealed.
Oh yeah, definitely, guys. I'll be back whenever you want me.
Yeah,
Cool.
we'll get that.
So as a tangent here, we have missed one big news point, haven't we? So obviously we talked about the RLE and Toga taking that down with Mr. Norono. We talked about the Chromes, but obviously there was a big bit of news about 2 to 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
it's the most shocking, unexpected, it's the most shocking piece of news that everyone expected.
Yeah. Obviously, One with Nature is finally gone. I don't think anyone's going to disagree. I mean, the people that are going to disagree are the people that just really love playing with One with Nature and don't want to see it gone.
No, exactly.
But I think even the hardest sort of defender of that card. Can't really complain with it being gone. It was about time. Everyone expected it on the last ban list. And yeah, good riddance, really. I mean, I like the card. I like playing with the card, but yeah, good riddance.
I can understand that One with Nature isn't broken in standard, but from what I understand, MHA's power level is far below the average power level of standard.
I feel as though that's where I skew with this card, right? So, as you were saying, not many people, or the people that will want to see it stay, are the people that want to play with or play sets of it. I didn't really mind running it or in the format or whatever. I could live without it. It was neat though for me to see a standard card get reprinted, and then it's funny to see a standard card get banned. Not mean that in a negative way. Like, I know there's some people out there that treat like standard's a better format and they're kind of elitist with it, but it's in One with Nature was nothing in standard. It was like a fringe card, and then we seen it come to My Hero and we seen it dominate these decks.
Yeah.
But I feel the only reason it dominated is the Earth package, and what is it? Earth and Good currently have so many cards that just draw a card for no cost.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what they were saying about Earth as well. Earth has got so many
Yeah.
good straw cards. We've got Apple in the Twitch chat saying that we need to dig its grave, dig it deep, and not mark where we buried it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I don't-
remember you
I
saying,
mean, there's probably a world where it's okay to come back, maybe like a set or two down the line, right?
when the
When you've
defenses
got
caught up.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well, that,
you were saying there a minute ago, Mary, that you found it funny to see a standard card get reprinted and then banned in MHA. But taking you back to last year, how did you feel when Momo got printed and then was immediately banned in standard?
so that was I'd have liked to have got a shot at Momo in standard. I'm not sure that the ban was completely justified. I know there's a lot of powerful assets and there's a lot of decent weapon cards. But before this, we kind of seen this preemptive banning of a bunch of standard characters. And the only reason we were really given is they were restricting future design space, including Yoshimitsu. So when Momo was previewed, I'm like, oh, here we go. Momo's going to fill this void, getting to use all this Yoshimitsu weapon support. And then she's banned in standard, and I'm like, okay, like, I just don't get to play with my toys.
I
Like,
mean, you can still crack her in a casual tabletop standard.
Oh, yeah. definitely can. Asset based. So I'm reading Mike's comment here.
Yeah, asset-based characters are too powerful in standard. Look at Combat Ash.
I need to agree and disagree here. Combat Ash had the obvious rule of he could treat assets as foundations. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this character.
I'm assuming that's what Mimic is loosely based off, right?
I was about to say Mimic seems like a downgraded version where you can just use one asset to do it.
Yeah. Combat Ash got to use assets as foundations, and he also got like to build an asset from his bin each turn, or build an asset from his discard pile.
Each turn, not just your turn.
Oh, sorry, form once per turn.
Oh, form, okay. I was going to say, yeah, if it's both turns, that's a bit nuts.
So the character had inherent problems because he could just form first turn in the game, if he's going second, discard a card, get the best or discard this asset from my hand, get to build it. And then he's got a foundation for that build turn. And I just don't know.
That's pretty awesome. It's got chaos. Yeah. I love the health symbol on this character as well. That looks really cool.
Oh, yeah. I'm actually sitting with about 100 copies of this card. If you want me to mail one down to you just for collector's purposes.
Oh, hell yeah. I'll take it. You haven't mailed it down. I'll just pick it up from you in Sheffield in August.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'll pack some.
Yeah, you can set up your own redemption table.
I probably could, actually.
Well, yeah, I think One with Nature is good to be gone. As I was saying to Brett earlier, I think it probably puts the nail in the coffin for Chaos Bird. I don't know if he's now off it. Felt like a lot of the time One with Nature's carrying him, giving them out again the cards he drew.
When One with Nature was banned, my head just went, okay, my current Mina deck is now dead, and a lot of my other decks that I was planning are dead, and then my head just kind of justified it. Went, that's a good thing that is banned. Then if I'm looking at my top 16 RLA deck and going, this cannot win in the current format because this one card has been banned, then that one card is what carried me to the top 16.
Well, I mean, it was the thing, right? Looking at, I guess, the Earth package and looking at things like Kirishima and stuff. obviously Earth does damage, it does the card draw, but it was always slow. It never really got the way of producing speed. And then all of a sudden, one with nature says, here's effectively just free speed on everything, and it's also free uninteractable speed.
2 speed that you can't interact with. Yeah.
So it just means now these Earth Chaos decks just need to find that speed from somewhere else, and it becomes more interactable, a lot less free. They have to find slots for it. So I think it's just a good thing overall.
It could also be a bit of future proofing for Bubble Girl, because we know Bubble Girl is going to interact with block modifiers as well, but that's a bit of speculation.
I mean, that'll just be it won't be anything to go well goal. It's just because the card's too good.
But let's move on to the next topic, and I'm going to very kindly ask Richard to hold his tongue for a good couple of minutes while I ask Michael, what's the best way to shuffle, and is it possible to achieve true randomness in your deck?
True randomness, according to, I believe, Penn and Teller and a bunch of statistics, is 6 ruffle shuffles, right? That should achieve true randomness. The best way to shuffle for me personally, if I'm going to an event, at the start of the round, I will maybe do a pile shuffle to make sure that all my cards are actually there. Don't put your cards in any sort of determinable order, like don't separate them like actions, foundations, attacks, and then pile shuffle if you're making a conscious decision.
So don't go 2 foundations, 1 attack, 2 foundations, 1 attack, 2 foundations, 1 attack.
Definitely not. If you do that, or if you see someone doing that, or if your opponent's doing that, just call a judge, man.
Okay, a little bit of self-confession here. At the HLC, I had my deck in 2 piles, and I went to the judge. Is it okay if I pile shuffle these in? And the judge just told me, yeah, pile shuffle decks are trash anyway. And then at the hour the judge went, you can't be doing that. I was like, oh
no. Yeah, man, I don't think it's an actual hard rule in UFS at the moment, but looking over from Magic the Gathering, where the term mana weaving is massive.
Yeah.
We've learned so much from Magic, you can't do this. No. It's not allowed. And there's so many people that think just doing the pile shuffling your foundations with attacks this way is you randomizing your deck. And it's like, no, please don't. I'm not calling names. I don't want to bring anything up. But I had to explain this to someone at the event. And it was like I'm trying to do my best way I can to explain this as simply as possible.
I think that's I think that was when I was pushing for my deck, and you came over with a couple of people like, yeah, you can't be doing this.
Yeah, man. It's anything that when you're shuffling, if you're making a conscious decision, it's not random. It's probably the easiest way to say it.
Okay, Richard, you can be released from muted jail.
Okay, right. So this is my old man yells at cloud section then. So yeah, pretty much everything that Mr. Murray has just said, absolutely. And sort of part that prompted me is that, and this isn't having a go at the chap on the stream who was the caster, but it was on the official stream and they talked about, when you get stuff clumped up and you have to declump it. But let's say you're playing a game and you end up playing 3 electric jolts and they all get put together in a pile, and you literally pick those 3 electric jolts and place them in 3 different parts of your deck. That is stacking your deck, right? Because you are evenly distributing. So random and even distribution are not the same thing. Okay, so yeah, you want to be doing that 6 to 7 riffle or mash shuffles, right? However you can do it. So pile shuffling, I know a lot of people love pile shuffling, and with the whole mana weaving and the 2 foundations, 1 attack thing, yeah, that's terrible. But it's sort of almost okay as long as you are correct randomization afterwards. But in theory, that's almost what's one thing of superstitious, right? Because you should effectively get the same effect after shuffling as if it was just 20 attacks, 40 foundations, and shuffled them. You should end up with the same effect afterwards, being a randomized deck. So pile shuffling is good for one thing and one thing only, and that is counting the cards in your deck. So at the beginning of a round, and especially between rounds, like doing a single pile shuffle to count the cards in your deck, totally fine. if you're doing any more and you think pile shuffling is randomizing your deck, you are just wasting time.
Yeah.
That's all it's doing. It's just time wasting. You can randomize your deck via pile shuffling and doing lots of it and doing random placements, doing different counts and stuff. But it takes about 10 times longer than just doing some riffles, doing some mass shuffles, whatever.
So this is where I kind of disagree with yourself. With you saying
Really?
about pile shuffling at the start of a round and then in between rounds, I would say that there should be something in the rules document saying that you can only pile shuffle once per match. And this is also something that would be brought over from Magic the Gathering, purely because the amount of time, if you are exclusively using pile shuffle to count the cards in your deck, the time that you're taking to do that, to count your deck and then shuffle on top of it, you're starting to eat into round time. And
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, you want to do it once, right?
I mean,
You should only need to do it once per round, effectively. So at the beginning, when you sit down, so you're not presenting an illegal deck.
To touch on what you're saying now, I think the only thing you should be doing between rounds by even touching your deck is de-sideboarding.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be shuffling. You shouldn't be changing the.
But there might be cards dropped on the floor.
Yeah.
Things like that, right?
Sorry, that
it's always worth checking.
But if I've de-sideboarded and I'm like stood over watching someone else's game and I'm shuffling up my cards there, I don't think that should be allowed. I think your deck should be back in a box. It should be left alone, and you shouldn't be randomizing it or stacking it or power shuffling it at any point between once your game's ended and when your next game starts.
That might have been a bit of a misunderstanding on my end. I thought you were meaning you would yet again pile out to count the cards in your deck in between sideboarding, as in between the rounds of a game.
No, between round 1 and round 2.
Yeah. I was like, if you're doing that at the end of every single game you play, then it's going to add some time.
Also, to touch on what Richard was saying there, which was if you've got 3 electric jolts and when you're cycling or when you're doing anything, if you pull them out and you put them in 3 separate, that is essentially mana weaving because the cards in our decks are our mana, they're our checks.
Yeah.
And what you've done there is essentially guaranteed, or not guaranteed, but you've 99.9% guaranteed that you're not going to check those 3 in a row now.
Well, no. So the point is that there's 2 extremes here, right? So either you've effectively split those 4 cards in your deck, and then you haven't sufficiently randomized afterwards, in which case you effectively stacked your decks and evenly distributed those cards, which is not random, or you have done that sufficiently randomized afterwards, in which case there was no point doing it in the first place.
So I think that ties into what you were saying about the superstition thing for some people.
Yeah.
I know myself at the end of a game, if I've got attacks in my pool, I'm not subconsciously putting them in my deck, but I will just pick up my deck and slot cards in. I'm not thinking out here. This is
before big events. It's one of the things I love to ask players is, what are your superstitions? Because I know everyone's got superstitions around hot sleeves, hot playmats, hot dice. It's a case of you kind of test out your sleeves and your playmats and your decks. And before I put Mina in pink sleeves before bringing to the alley. I lost 3 games in a row. Nope, taking them out of them sleeves.
So there's another part to shuffling for me, and this is where it kind of gets into those, I guess, murkier areas of making sure that you and your opponent are playing above board, right? And if you want to see examples of people doing this the wrong way and effectively get caught, there is loads of YouTube videos of Magic player cheaters that get done this stuff. So when you are shuffling your deck, one thing you should do is always make sure you're not looking at the bottom card of your deck. The best way of doing that is literally just sort of, have your hand, your face away, so you're not looking at it. If your opponent, if you're looking at your deck while you're shuffling, that looks suspicious, right? Because you can possibly get information of what's on the bottom card of the deck, especially if you're doing it on the side. So if you're either shuffling your deck or shuffling your opponent's deck, you should always try and look away, so you're not getting
especially your opponent's deck, because you can get information about attacks and foundations in there, what symbol they're on, which can be a huge information as to what on your first turn what blocks zones to hold. And
it's just looking out for, a shuffling thing should be fairly simple and clean. And it's like you're looking for things like, is that top card of the deck not changing? Like, is the top card always staying the same, or is someone effectively looking at the bottom card and doing these? Are their hand movements unnatural, right? And I would say in the vast majority of cases, these are probably just people who are just awkward shufflers. And so, I think in one of those, if you're ever unsure about someone shuffling and the way they're randomizing, call a judge and just get
We've
them to
got.
check
I
and
hope
ask.
is it Sabri? Sabri saying I'm terrible for dropping cards while I'm not watching myself shuffle,
Yep.
which is fair. There
Yeah,
are people that are not going to be able to have the same hand-eye coordination, but you can do it by not having the deck upside down, so you can have it on an angle where you can see the bottom card. And I'm sure Richard and Michael will both agree. The biggest thing to remember is always offer your opponent a cut. And if your
yeah.
opponent
And
doesn't
again,
offer, if your opponent doesn't offer you a cut, you stick your hand straight up and get a judge.
well, just say again,
I mean, yeah, if you
I would
if
encourage
you ask for
calling a
the
judge
cut,
in most situations, but that is, I'll cut your deck or shuffle, right?
yeah.
And if that situation, I'd probably shuffle because a lot of people just go with a cut, whereas actually you are totally within your rights to
Yeah.
shuffle your opponent's deck. And
And
again, at locals or whatever, I would just cut. If I'm playing like a premier event, I'm shuffling my opponent's deck.
I like to shake it up a little bit between shuffling. Sometimes I will split into thirds. Or the big thing I like to do is I'll cut in half, but then I roll a dice and go put those cards to the bottom.
You're time wasting.
It's not.
Stop doing it.
It's how much, but it's one of those things that if I am even have the slightest inclination that my opponent's stacking the deck, I could have put 1 to 7 of the cards that he wanted back to the bottom of the deck.
So kind of wind it back a little bit to what you were saying, Richard. If you feel as though your opponent's not shuffling correctly and the game hasn't fully started yet, just if you don't want to confront your opponent or you don't want to call a judge and then question it while the opponent's sitting in front of you, feel free to say, like, call a judge, say to the judge that you've got like a rules question and you need an explanation about a card in your hand. And that judge at that point is probably going to remain with the table and get another judge to come over and take your side and answer the question, so that you can raise the concern to someone, and we can station a judge nearby just to keep an eye on the game and watch people shuffling.
That does bring me into the next point, and the main point why I wanted to have you come on. What advice would you have for new players or players who may have a bit of social anxiety, may not want to bother a judge over something that's going there? What advice or what kind of words would you have for players that are intimidated by calling judges?
So I'll kind of extend this category, right? So players that are intimidated by calling judge, people that are socially anxious, or people that are enjoying their game with their opponent to the point where they're like, "Oh, I'm just playing a game with a friend." At this point, like, if there's anything ever that you've got a question on, you need a second kind of set of eyes on. You need to raise a concern about anything, hand straight in the air. The judging staff aren't there to berate people, they aren't there to cause issues. We're there to listen to absolutely everything and we're going to help solve whatever situation, especially if you're a new player. We see it a lot with new players where they might just not understand something that we'll take for granted, like, can you block a high attack with a low? Like, that's something that a truly new player won't get until it comes up in a game, and then it can cause issues for that new player. They might be hesitant to call a judge, or they might feel intimidated if their opponent calls a judge at that situation. For more established players, people make mistakes. Like, that's it. Like, I know that I'm sitting here as maybe head judge of the UK, but I've definitely got rulings wrong. And there's nothing worse than finding out after the fact that something went wrong in a game that could have been fixed with a judge call.
Yeah.
Especially if there's something on the line like an invite to nationals, or even the difference between finishing 64th and 65th for that extra promo. Yeah, I'm not saying that the judges are there to be everybody's pal, but call judge, man. Like,
yeah. Judges are friends. They're there to make sure the game's being played fairly, not to take
Yep.
sides, or even if you know the other person on the table, your job is to go there impartially and chat them. And
It's there's an old thing about like you'll sit and regret things that you didn't do more than things that you did. And even if you call judge and turn out to be that you're wrong in this instance, then at least you called judge. Your opponent's probably going to be more grateful if you called judge and turned out you were wrong. It's
yeah, but at least
And you've learned
you've
from the
learned.
situation,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like,
that's
it's like the simplest thing is if in doubt, call a judge, right? That's
yeah.
kind of what I go with.
You would be surprised the amount of people that will kind of say this to, or we've made it clear to all the locals and stuff, and it's like, if in doubt, call a judge. But I've been that guy that sat there and I've not called a judge, and it's had a massive impact. So it's kind of learn from my mistakes, like always call judge.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna ask something a bit off the cuff, but I know you've got like the floor rules and predetermined outcomes for game states and mistakes and stuff like that. But does a player's attitude towards the judge affect how you handle the situation? Whether they're being nice to you or whether they're giving you attitude.
Definitely. Not saying that it would 100% skew the situation, but something as simple as, I don't know, like for example, like there was a situation that might have been a miscommunication with the tournament organizer and the people partaking in the sealed event, where it was being run under soft symbol chaining, which I don't exactly agree with, but that's the way it was being organised. Turned out there was about 7 people that had been building a deck with loose, no symbol chaining.
And when I went around, pre-release rules.
Yeah, when I went through each table and I was kind of explaining to people like, "Hey, this is what's happened. At the end of this game, just quickly fix your deck as quickly as possible." It was a side event on the Sunday at the regions.
Yeah.
It's a massive event that's been running. This is meant to be the casual time to relax, and there was not a single issue with any of the opponents bar one. And the guy's attitude was, I was treating it as a warning. And if it was a store provisional event or anything more serious, obviously a legal deck would be a game loss. But this is a casual event, it's round one. I issued warnings to about 7 to 8 people and asked them to correct their deck at the next available instance. And there was only one guy's opponent that questioned why it wasn't a game loss. And I'm like, mate, I don't, not being funny, but you need to read the room here. Like, it's a casual side event. For a lot of players, this might have been the only time playing sealed. Not to mention the fact that it's sealed under this other additional rule that's been added. And so in that situation,
it's intentionality, right? Is the big thing. And I'd imagine that's where, the sort of, I guess, partly what Brett was asking is, so if you are having to make calls on higher level events, especially where the intentionality of something would change how you rule it from maybe like a game loss to like a DQ because it was intentional. And that's where an attitude or the approach to the judge could possibly make a big difference in colouring. Again, I'm just sort of guessing here as how you would rule that, right?
Yeah. So there's definitely been times where I've been called to a table, especially it happens. I think people are a little bit more willing to give a judge attitude over the webcam events, opposed to something in person. No one likes confrontation when it's not online.
Yeah.
We had a guy who was claiming that his opponent skipped the opponent decided upon himself to end the enhanced step and play a block. And it was the opponent that was calling judge saying, like, I've played this block and now the other guy saying, oh, I wasn't finished enhancing. It's how do you rule that situation? If the two of you were playing a game and I've been pinged to come to this table and it turns out that Richard is claiming that you've not given him the sufficient window to finish playing the block or finish playing his enhances before you play a block, a judge doesn't really have any background here other than to go with the attitude of the players.
Yeah.
And the one guy who's taking his time and trying to explain the situation to me is definitely going to come off better than the guy that's arguing with me.
So you've got to be a fairly decent judge of character as well as being a judge.
Yeah, I would definitely say so.
Yeah. To go back on 2 points from what both you and Richard have said for there. I knew one of the players, one of the Welsh players, Mr. Taffenter, who took part in the side event of the Sealed, who got one of the warnings.
Yeah.
And he's only played 2 events, one of which was Nationals, and then one of which was a Sealed, which had no symbol chaining. So he didn't even know that loose chaining was a thing, and he was like, it wasn't explained to us that when deck construction. So he just was like,
Yeah,
I had no idea, and it kind of like he felt like it impacted his entire side event.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that it impacted his side event. I believe loose chaining's only meant for draft. I'm not sure why it was being run.
And going to what? Well, you finish.
Oh, no.
What Rich was saying, when as a judge, your influence and your decisions can impact the entirety of the game, especially when you get into top cuts. I know when I was speaking to Apple about the Kirishima that made it to top 16, he was desperately trying to keep on top of this Kirishima to not have to give that game loss, because unfortunately Kai, one of my friends and one of my locals, just kept using the enhance twice, which was a big shame. But it's his first time topping. He was really nervous, sufficiently shaken up by it, which is understandable with first time topping. But it's just one thing. Apple knew that if he had to give a game loss, a top 16 for a game loss, it feels really bad. But he had no choice because Kai was just playing so quickly that Apple had to follow the actual guidelines.
Yeah, it's a shame when it happens, man, but it definitely comes up every so often. Upon speaking to Kai, like Kai did to himself, the turn that he got game lost, he's like, oh, I think I was dead that turn anyway, but that definitely shows you the impact of these like rulings, right? So I'm not saying it shouldn't have been ruled a different way if it had happened anywhere else in the 7 rounds before Top Cut. If that had occurred at a random table, like somewhere down the bracket, and a judge was never called, the UK players would have probably resolved that themselves.
Yeah.
That would have went one or two ways. It would have either went like Kai's opponent would have just says, mate, you can't do that. Remove the card that you've built by accident from the game, or shuffle it back into your deck. If the opponent wanted to continue playing, or there would have been a judge call.
Yeah, I can't argue that the UK players are some of the most friendly. I played with Americans, I played with Australians, and at the UK RLE, both me in round 6, I was playing against a Selkie player. Both me and my opponent were essentially 4-2 at that point. A loss meant that we couldn't top cut, and we were still treating it as a fairly casual game. My opponent went to play a card, and I just went, "Did you not want to steal one of my foundations first?" He went, "Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, I want to steal that first." I was like, "Yeah, go for it." And then I was like, "Oh, sorry, I missed this response when I was playing because I'm trying to kill you here." And he was like, he had a little laugh, and he went, "Yeah, take your response," and go, it's a case of you get that friendly back and forth. I didn't know that player. I'd never met that player before, but it was just good to have that kind of, even though it was a high stakes game, it was more relaxed because we will both be relaxed with each other.
The one that I feel really sorry for on camera, and it was Fleshman. I can't remember the deck he was playing, but before he sat down, Michael McMewan or Apples, I asked the guy if he'd unsideboarded. Asked both players. So Michael McEwen was our stream judge for the event. He asked both players if they'd unsided before going on stream. The player says yes, sits down, shuffles his deck, draws opening hand, and he has a sideboard card in his hand. And it's like, at that point, the player's definitely at fault, right? They should have unsided themselves. They shouldn't have. A judge doesn't need to give you prompt.
No.
But it does feel bad for that guy because his opponent's instant reaction, and you can go and watch the VOD back yourself. You hear the opponent saying like, "Oh, you can just take it inside just now and shuffle up," and it's like, can't do that, man. Like,
No.
Yeah, especially on stream. I know Apple had to make a lot of choices that were, if it wasn't on stream, we probably would let you get away with it because of how nice that we are. But you're on stream. There's at least 100 people watching you here. We've got to follow the rules to the T.
I mean, again, I think it depends, right? Again, if it's just the 2 players and they're interacting, and player one draws a hand and is like, shit, I've got a sideboard card. And they have that conversation, it's possible that, the player two says, no, that's fine, D-sideboard, shuffle up again,
Yeah.
good to go.
Yep.
The moment a judge is involved,
That
I think
changes that.
they effectively have to give that game loss. And that's one of those situations where, the penalty is either the game loss or it could be a DQ. At least coming from Magic anyway. I'm assuming it's probably going to be the same. So if that player one sees that sideboard card and then they say, shit, I've got a sideboard card, calls a judge, it's going to be a game loss. If that player one sees that sideboard card and says, maybe they don't notice and continues playing, and then it gets found out,
I mean,
that's where
yeah.
it gets escalated, right? Because then it becomes intentionality. It becomes, I know I'm cheating. I'm playing. I'm doing
I
something
don't
wrong.
know your deck list, so if you play a card in game one, I'm not going to assume it's in your sideboard. But talking about strange situations and moving on to a topic that Murray's been waiting to talk about, which happened with me as well. Before the RLE, there was a judge chat set up where all the judges for the RLE could talk about any and all situations that they could prepare for between card interactions. And I would really love to hear some of the situations you guys were prepared for, and if any actually came up throughout there. I know one that came up because it happened with me, but I'd love to know what other niche and obscure rulings you guys were prepared for.
Oh, now I'm put on the point. Now I'm put on the floor, mate. I'll quickly have a scan of this judge chat and see if there was anything else that really came up. I think the main one was the Sugar Rush power up rules question.
The checking it before removing.
No. So I win my game against Billy. He played Sugar Rush power up and had 8 cards in his discard.
Oh, okay.
Oh, did they only have 8?
He only had 8.
Okay.
So we were like, what happens now? We were like, I don't know. Hand straight up. Judge comes over. My opponent's played Sugar Rush power up. Doesn't have enough cards to discard to pay the cost, and he was like, you see a smile on the face of, we were prepared for this. And because it was basically because there's a valid enhance that can be played even without a target on Sugar Rush power up, you just play that one instead. And without that ruling, I'm pretty sure Bill kills me that turn.
Yeah, so that's the correct way to handle it. You couldn't pay cost. The exact situation we were talking about in the discard pile is, what if the player had 9 cards in the discard pile? They make the check and then they remove 10, because at that stage there would be 10 in discard. Obviously it doesn't work that way. You need to pay additional costs first, which can be confusing for newer players or some established players. I've seen it trip people up with other actions.
I mean, I didn't know that's how it works until someone pointed out that one of the first times I played Sugar Rush. I made the check and then did the thing, and they're like, oh no, you do it the way around. And I genuinely didn't know it.
It's one of those. It's a situation where, unless someone points it out to you, I don't think instinctively you can read it that way. And I feel
I've been getting used to it with go for the win. So if I've got the same foundations as my opponent, I'll play go for the win, pay the cost. I now have less foundations than you. I get to build 2. And that's how I'm training my brain to go, always examine your actions by the cost first, then the ability.
It's just something you need to get used to. It's like one of the many little kind of tricks to this game. Like you can play abilities if you don't get a benefit from it, so you can just pay cost for no apparent reason. It's stuff that you wouldn't get away with in other card games like Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, etc. Do you know what I'm thinking? The Sugar Rush rules question was the only real one that came up, because we spent some time debating it.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if it made it to a judge chat, but there was one about. This was actually, I believe it came from my community, who spent the time arguing about it. Or initially, it might have came from the judge chat, and then my community started arguing with me about it. League of Villains, the asset, can it cancel a face-up electric jolt from momentum? I'll fire both of these cards over to you guys.
We've got a question in chat.
Okay, well we'll do the first one.
Yeah.
League of Villains. So what's the text on the?
So I'll send these over on the Discord for you guys to see.
So
Okay.
while we're just getting that ready, we've got one in chat saying Faith Shield versus Electric Jolt, which I'm pretty sure has been put to bed.
Oh, that have been done to death at this point. It's been about for years.
Jolt does no damage and gets flipped.
Yeah.
Commit one foundation after your rival players enhance on a foundation. Cancel it.
I mean, I would push. It's an attack card, so I guess it doesn't say attack card, right?
Does it still count as an attack when it's in momentum, or is it identified as momentum? Similar as when you block with it, it's not an attack; it's a block.
So this is the question that stumped me for a bit.
Yeah.
But it does, as far as I'm aware, it's still Jolt. League of Villains can still cancel Jolt because it's face up and it sees that it's an attack card. The term, it sees it's an attack. The concept of card only checks when it's being played, I'm sure.
Okay.
Well, if it's something was looking for an attack card, it will check when it's been played.
Here's one for you, Murray.
Yep.
If I've got a 0 gravity lift in hand and I've echoed my attack, if I discard a momentum, if I remove the 0 gravity for momentum, does it flip or go to momentum?
So it goes to momentum, right? Because it's your 0 gravity lift. I believe we had this conversation the other night.
Yeah, we did.
Is it because you've basically got 2 fired effects? You control
Yeah.
both. You can choose the order you do them, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. You've got 2 floating effects. You choose the order. If for some reason the 0 gravity lift belonged to your opponent and they used the ability on your card, your floating effect would need to resolve first, which would echo it and turn it face down.
So it'd be the same situation as if you 0 gravity lifted a jolt and your opponent blocked with Faith Shield. Although it deals no damage, it still goes to momentum because your floating effect goes off before Faith Shield's floating effect.
So the shield's isn't a floating effect; it's a response on block. Whereas Jolt's ability, the floating effect waits for the damage step to do the damage.
Yeah, but
I'm sure.
It's two effects in Faith Shield. So it's when on block, this attack deals no damage, and then flip it after it resolves, which would become the floating effect. So if I 0 gravity lifted a jolt, so if I'm on about the 0 gravity lift part of it, not the damage.
Yeah.
So because they both trigger on resolve, as active player, my 0 gravity lift fires first before the flip of Faith Shield, because Faith Shield's flip only triggers on after the attack's resolved. He's just going to quickly double check that my wording.
Yeah, I'm pulling up Jolt here. Sorry, guys.
Right.
After you block with this attack deals no damage. Flip it after it resolves. So 0 gravity lift if it's your 0 gravity lift and your opponent has Faith Shield, it should still go to momentum.
Yeah, Sabi says Grimace laughs at Faith Shield. It's true. Freezer Burn also laughs at Faith Shield. There's quite a few cards now that get to laugh at Faith Shield's face.
Yeah.
So there's one from...
What was the sound waves and drowning thing that's coming from chat? I'm sure that was something that I read and thought was hilarious.
So sound waves and drowning is one of the situations where I didn't actually know the ruling.
So drowning resentment means that you have to put the top card of discard into the pool.
Top card deck, I believe.
Top card deck. Oh, damn! Yes. Resentment just counters because they put the 2 on top. Then you get to respond, and they put the top card deck into the card pool. Then they draw.
Yeah, so it doesn't actually work that way. This is... I was McApple's called judge just to confirm it worked the way that it does. So Soundwaves will remove the cards from the discard pile and put them in the transit zone. You know, that magic zone that only gets used on occasion.
Yeah.
At which point you'll respond with Drowning and Resentment to clog the pool, and then the Soundwaves cards get stacked on top of the deck. I thought it was the way that you assumed. Well, the card would go at the top, then you would clog.
It's kind of like a pause effect.
Yeah.
Because it pauses Soundwaves in the middle of its effect to go. Those cards have left the card pool, but they're not on the top of the deck yet. the top of your deck goes into the card pool. Now you put those cards on the top of your deck.
If I could tidy up any part of this game, it would be the transitional zone.
Yeah.
I feel like we need some hard rules on what it is, what it's used for, when cards will go, like direct examples. I feel if any player instinctively reading these cards would go, "Oh, Drowning in Resentment is an answer," as an answer for Specialized Soundwaves.
I'm pretty sure people were running it in RLEs over the last couple of weekends because it appears to be an answer for Jiro.
Yep.
It's a very weird thing coming from from Magic. Is like the game I've probably played the most of, other than like Universus. Like it's very much obviously you got the stack, right? And everything is like a case of okay, I'm going to trigger this thing. Okay, I'm going to respond and put that on this stack. And I'm going to put that on the stack, and then you resolve each thing fully as it goes down the stack. And you would feel like then okay, I resolve the specialized sound wave response fully. That thing has happened. I now respond with Drowning Resentment. Resolve that fully. Go to the next thing, but it feels very unintuitive that in the middle of resolving an ability there is a window. You would feel that it would be, on triggering it or on resolution, right? It's not in the middle of doing something. There is a window for something else to happen.
We got GG Milky Cow talking about echoes going to transition zone, which does make sense to me. So
I don't think they do. I thought that was the ruling: is they do not enter the transition zone.
They get rechecked, so they technically do. Because I had a conversation
I don't think they do.
Vegas about it. If I blocked with Shuffle Uppercut, or if I sticky balls you or anything like that, and you've got more progressive, after you echo, that card lifts and goes to the end of your progression and gets played again. So that would be where it goes into transition zone.
Well, if only we had a judge that would know.
That would make me think. Don't hold me to this. I definitely don't know the answer, like fully. But the fact that they would move up the progressive in card pool if there was any sort of clogging effect would make me believe that they would have to enter the transitional zone in that instance. So if they're entering in that instance, then why wouldn't they enter all the time? But don't take me for Belgium,
because it's one of the things that this is my first time coming across things like echo, multiple, stuff like that, and it's one of the first questions I asked. If I bought with Shuffle Uppercut, do you check on the original check, or does it move up? And like essentially, it's like you picked up the card and replayed it, so it goes to the end of progressive.
Yeah, and like if someone sticky balls on that first one, I would assume that again the same thing would work, right?
Yeah.
I'm just again, I obviously not a judge. I don't know for certain. I'm sure I read something that someone had posted, probably free in the rules FAQ kind of thing on the Discord, saying they don't technically enter the transition zone. But again, there's probably very, very few edge cases where it matters whether it does or doesn't.
So I think one of the main things that swayed me with this, going back to the Drowning Resentment Specialized Soundwave, there's an easy fix for this Drowning Resentment. If the response triggered on response flip after your opponent plays an ability that would cause a card to leave your rival's discard pile, because they would trigger on like using an ability that would cause it, that would fire before the effect resolves. Because this little clause means after they've paid cost, but before they do the effect. Yeah. It's why you need to preemptively respond with anti-draw effects before.
That put it in the same position as it is now, though? So
it still works.
You play special sound waves. You go respond with Drowning Resentments before they do anything. And then they just take the top of the deck and put it in. Yeah.
It still puts it in the exact same position it is just now.
It makes it
just doesn't catch people out when they're playing in the top cut of some event and they realise that the Phantom Transitional Zone's made an appearance yet again. It's
the hidden 6 zone.
Yeah. That's when it gets. I guess it's the murkiness of UVS, like again in Magic, the layering and stuff. That was always the murkiness of the rules. There is how layers work, and I could never really understand how that worked.
I've been at the table where they argue about what happens with an Urbog and a Blood Moon. So like, Magic rulings go above my head, man.
It's one of those things.
Blood Moon's always one of the worst ones for it.
It's one of the things I always tell new players is this game is very easy to learn, but very hard to master. Because you pick up the basics, but as you go deeper and deeper and deeper into how this game works, you'll realise that although there's no stack, although there's not layers, the game still has ways to resolve those issues built in.
Oh yeah.
Hello, Lenoco.
Alright, guys.
Hey! Welcome, Guile. Yeah, we were talking about you earlier with your Street Fighter 6 going out, and at some point we do need to have a podcast where we do just wildly speculate what IPs are coming, because I know Street Fighter 6 is a heavily theorized one to be coming.
Yeah, and also I want to do a build a deck podcast, and I'm basically going to bully Brett until he lets me do Shin. So
we can do that next week if you want. We can do a build one. We'll get Mary back in 2 weeks for when we talk about the best way to build a sealed deck for a pre-release, because I am so hyped to play pre-release.
Me too, man. I'm looking forward to it. So answering Milky Cow's question here, Tekken was in the game a few years ago. If you're a massive Tekken fan, I don't recommend looking it up. It's got some of the worst artwork you'll ever see.
awkward.
But I'm also on the hoping out. Oh, don't worry, it wasn't Jasco. It was Fantasy Flight Games at the time. So Jasco don't need to take the blame of that one. But I'm also hoping for Tekken 8 to maybe make an appearance at some point.
Well, from the way it was said to me, it was IPs plural are coming, not IP. So I am really excited to go on there. I am absolutely. I'm just hyped to see the way this is going. Hawks coming in there later this year. Hopefully, that's going to drop before Nationals, so I can chicken kick my way back to the HLC.
Yeah.
Do you have any more questions for Mr. Murray?
No, I don't think there's anything else for me. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to sort of bring up or chat about, or just any shout outs or anything while you're here.
Myself,
do you have any shout outs or anything you want to say while you're here?
Yeah, go and check out the Daubers on YouTube. We have one gameplay video up at the moment in one new format, but we have a bunch of archive footage if you want to see what UFS or Universus used to be like. Highly recommend playing a little bit of Standard when it comes out. I know that there's a couple of people that are worrying about the My Hero format coming to an end, so to say, but the extended game is just as good.
One thing while you are here, tell us about your stream tracking app.
Oh, okay. So do you want the dirty little secret about the stream or the action tracker app? Yeah. It's not actually an app. It's manually made. Which is why the gameplay is so slow to get out. It was an idea that I had. I just kind of kept revising this video style, and I was like, what kind of gameplay footage do I want to watch? And I'm like, something that I don't need to be focused on 24/7 would be perfect for me. So I came up with this idea of having an action bar, and the action bar has proven to be great, but also an absolute nightmare to maintain.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I started streaming last year, one of my friends set me up with a server where you could type any card into chat and it would show up on my stream, but it turned out to be an absolute nightmare for him to maintain.
Yeah. We've got one of our friends is quite techie. He's working on some stuff for us just now, like a health bar overlay that we can maintain via an app. So if we're ever live streaming games, when someone takes damage in the app, the health bar will move and keep up to date real time.
So like a fighting game where it goes down like probably.
Yep.
Like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, man. So we're gonna. The plan is in the long term, a lot of this stuff we'll be able to automate. But in the meantime, I'm having to like. The longest part is shorthanding the abilities because we don't have all the tech space in the world.
Yeah.
So having to work out like how do you abbreviate the lost and fought enhance, which is like enhance, remove, both players add a thing.
You can't really. Both players just add a foundation back to
lost in fought enhance.
Yep, that's pretty much it, man. We've got gameplay 1 and 2 have been done. They've got the action tracker done, which is the bulk of the work. It's been started for games 3 through 6. We're getting there. I was before I came on, I was editing some commentary because we're going to try doing commentary over these games.
So I'm a couple of months off seeing my round 7 game then.
hopefully everything will be out before the next regionals. That is the timeline that I'm giving people. But yeah,
it was really cool to
it's
see
a
you
labour of love,
guys
man.
set up a second table.
Yeah, hopefully we can do the same thing again.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if we'd be allowed to. I wasn't sure what Jasco's policy on it was, but it turned out you just needed permission of the event organizer.
Yeah.
And Sean loves me, so he wasn't going to say no.
Didn't Legendary Wolf have like 3 streams up, the main stream
Oh
and
yeah,
2 of their own streams?
Legendary Wolf is living the dream. I don't think we have enough players or content creators in the UK to justify that though.
No. I mean,
It's...
I would like to get to the point where like me and Richie could do like a TAM situation where we're wearing body cams going around the event, but that'd
be good
cool.
to see, man.
I would love to see more UK content coming out. That's why I'm glad to see you guys at UFF Scotland. It's great to see the content that Wazzy does make for the event, and especially as Wazzy does tailor his events to also describe the game to new players because it's not primarily his play base. But as the game grows here, we will get more and more content creators coming into it because people enjoy this game. They want to talk about it, and I've heard some of the guys at at Southampton, where I play, want to get a Team DMS podcast going, and it's one thing. We've just come from the largest ever EU event, and hopefully it can keep growing. And as more people come in, the content should hopefully grow as well.
Here's hoping, man. It's a great game, and more people should be playing it.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I've tried to grow my locals down here. I think I've got a couple of people that may be interested, and maybe I can persuade to go to pre-release. So we're just seeing, but basically just me and the child at the moment. So yeah,
I'm gonna try and find someone to bring to Sheffield just to get that box. But I want to know if it stacks. It's like if I do 6 of the 7 things, do I get 2 boxes?
Look, we've told you before, it's not going to happen, Brett.
It's not been confirmed, though. It's not been confirmed. If I play 6 set 5 characters, do I just get a box?
You will not. You will not. You will get 1 box by doing the 3 and be happy.
I will be happy, but I'll be disappointed I can't just drop after round 3 and sit farming side events for more boxes and just leave with a load of boxes.
You need to up your game for next time, man. You need to, instead of having 1 character card on your sideboard, I think you should have 10. And then make your opponent random choose your character for the next game.
Don't do that. That was a good meme. And I mean, if I just played Evil, I could literally have pretty much every set of 5. I could have easily 10 set of 5 characters in there.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah, you could just play the whole You could play Overhaul main and then have the rest of the Shin Sakai in the side. There we are, done.
Literally could. I could put, here's Overhaul, and boom, now I'm Rapper. Boom, now I'm now I'm Tengate. I think I've split before we move on. How do you guys feel about action overhaul? The action rules being overhauled to allow them to be played from other areas. It's not been confirmed that that's going to happen. I just know that one of the devs has been playing the shield guy with hold hostages using the ability and finds it lots of fun. So he might be pushing for that rule change.
I seem to remember that you could play actions from other areas years ago, but this is going way back.
I know now in the rules in big red text it says actions are abilities that are played from hand.
Yeah.
But with the new set 5 cards all being play cards from other areas, it would be, and especially seeing as Tenge, the shield character, has an action that you kind of want to play from discard. What we got here?
So this is going way back, man, but there's a couple of cards like this from years ago that would allow you to play cards from other areas. There's an action that lets you reveal top 3 cards of your deck, and your opponent would pick one for you to play.
Choose one random momentum, reveal it. If the reveal is an attack, you may play. So it's a little bit like Compress, but with no life loss. It's a committed step.
Yeah, but it would allow you to play attacks or actions. So I could see them bringing it back. I think as we go on, the game's going to start introducing a little bit more complexity. and maybe we'll see this actions only from hand disappearing.
Yeah, I think that will disappear as part of this set, as
Oh
part of the
yeah,
Yeah.
FAQ for this set.
the pure emphasis on playing cards from other zones kind of makes me think that actions will be part of that. And honestly, I've been looking at Mina 1 and Compress going, set 5 is a nice little power boost for these guys because they both have the ability to play cards from other zones.
Yep. It's nice to see Mina getting something,
Oh, yeah.
because God knows Mina 2 needs some support.
Yeah. So welcome, Bosch. If you have missed it, don't worry, it'll be up on YouTube
Yeah, get
at
up
some
tomorrow.
point. And yes, Milky Cow, that is the current ruling. You can only play actions from hand, so they
Yes.
can't be played from so Mr. Compress can't currently play them from. So he can't play a seasonally advantage, for example, from his
Yeah.
momentum as a form.
Ever killing my buzz, Mr. Hardman. When everyone was going, oh, Mina 1's back doing really good stuff, it was like, oh, and then Mr. Hardman's like, yeah, people are just lazy. Mina 1's always been good, just nobody wants to play her. It's like, yeah, hash my buzz.
Yeah.
But
That's
no,
Hardman for you.
it's something I talked to a lot of people about before. It's a case of, as nice as the new stuff is that's coming, never forget that all these cards are backwards compatible. Look at Mina 1, look at all. The fact that All Might 4 has made a sudden reoccurrence because of cremation, because all these new cards that are coming are just as adaptable. And like you say, Mina 2 desperately needs some support. I thought Echo.
Mina 2 is never happening. We just need to go over that one, Brett. Mina 2 is never happening.
Mina 2 will happen when Echo takes off and when we have a reversal card. Any kind of like fixed reversal card where you can clog your opponent's card pool with face down cards and then hit them with this attack that was going to hit them in their own turn for ridiculous amounts will make Mina 2 ridiculous.
It's when we get back to standard, if we see multiples again, that's when Mina 2 will spike.
Yeah.
Chill.
Yeah, I mean, Echo's the multiple we're getting. Right? We're not going to get Tree multiple back again.
So are you implying that Mina 2 is playable in standard?
Maybe you'd need to find a way to get punch or ranged onto your face down attacks, because technically they're not printed, right? I'll need to double check some stuff with
is it printed?
multiple.
Does it need to be printed, or is it just if your punch or ranged attack hits?
I think it's if your punch or ranged attack, but when you multiple an attack, it doesn't gain any of the text.
Oh.
So it's kind of like Echo if Echo only gave you the stats of the card.
So it's basically just a blank card with set damage, set speed. I don't know much about it, but I mean,
I might be misremembering, but I'm sure multiple didn't.
When does multiple actually trigger?
So multiples and enhance. If a card had, say, multiple 1,
Yeah.
for example, you could discard 1 momentum as an enhance, and then take the top X cards of your discard pile, which would be how much you paid. So the top 1 card of your discard pile, and you'd place it in your card pool face down next to the attack that's currently resolving. Once that attack finishes, the face down copy becomes a copy of the attack, for the lack of a better way to describe it, minus the enhance. So if you had a 5 mid for 5, yeah, and the keywords.
But what you are doing there is if you've got, say, a punch or ranged attack with multiple 3, you discard 3 momentum, get 3 new attacks, and you've just given this attack plus 3 damage if it hits.
Yep.
Which is not too bad. It might not be standard power level, but I could see running Mina 2 in a Chaos draft now.
That should be fun, man.
Yeah. I need to know more about standard. I've got some Cowboy Bebop cards. I've been picking them up when I see good deals on eBay. I don't have great cards, but I'm interested to learn more about the old stuff. But like you said, like people said, there's 15 years of back cards to learn.
The game's been very different at very different points in its lifetime. Is probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah,
wasn't there a point in the game very, very early on where foundations you couldn't actually commit foundations to pass checks, right? That wasn't part of the standard rules. I'm sure.
I'm sure that you could always commit foundations. Otherwise, we will never play anything because there was an abundance of 2 checks and 1 checks back then.
Well, because there's a foundation that says, I think it's like commit discard momentum, and you get +1 to a check.
Card was bad. It wasn't.
I know that
There's
some of
been
the
some
older,
pretty.
I know some of the older cards didn't have block modifiers on them.
Yeah.
So you just.
That's been a recent thing with My Hero, actually. Like, My Hero, they kind of came out and know every card's going to have a block modifier. And
Yeah.
it's okay. I remember years ago they tried this and it just made sealed events last forever.
Yeah.
Because it was the first time that everything had a block modifier.
Apple recommends me watching Tim Keith's video on the history of the game.
Yeah, I would totally recommend it myself. It's a really well put together video.
I'd also recommend any new players or anyone interested in learning the game to watch the Jasco stream that's happening at the weekend, which is Learn to Play Friendly. Hopefully, it'll be as interesting as the Mega Man versus Proto Man Learn to Play video, which is how I learned the game. Because, I'm not going to complain about watching two reasonably attractive women playing the game in Vegas telling me how the game works.
That video doesn't start like it's going to teach you how to play My Hero.
Let's not, Lenoko's in the chat, let's not go into how that video starts. I've had similar responses from people in the past of just that video, the way that it goes could easily end up on a different website and people would still think it was the other way. But apparently, apparently one of them was an actual player and the other one was like a model that was brought in just to teach people how to play as well.
Yeah, there was something like that. But
is it basically as cringy as the old 90s Magic adverts when they're in I can't remember, it's like Vegas or Hollywood or something, or
do you remember the old
LA?
Old 2000s videos when you see sorority girls hitting each other with pills going, no, stop, don't do that. It's kind of like that kind of vibe. Where...
Right, okay.
But the old Magic ones are gems. If you've not seen them, there's some great commercials where they filmed them at the beach and stuff. And
with Mike Long and who's the other guy?
I can't remember, man.
I mean,
basically all them big cheaters of the time.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to beat the original Smash Bros. Advert, which has got Pikachu and Donkey Kong and Mario skipping through a field, and then suddenly out of nowhere Mario starts beating up Yoshi out of nowhere.
I've not seen that one. Man.
Oh, you've got to watch that. It's so good.
So, Saber, question from the chat. Thoughts on there being more ways to seal commit your opponent's character? I think it's good. I think it should be sparingly used because it's very powerful. I would like more any ways of defensively doing it, right?
Yeah.
Which there isn't really outside of Erase. There's a one shot.
I'm still legitimately disappointed that the evil enhance seal your character seal your opponent's character if this attack does damage isn't an action.
Yeah, it was never going to be right.
I know it was never going to be. Yeah, I think.
So, I feel with this being the set where if I'm getting my hero lore correctly, they bring about the bullets that can strip people of their quirks.
Yeah, Apple. This was Apple was saying we should have been bringing back Bang.
Yeah, I feel we should have been bringing back Bang. Maybe tweak it a little bit. Maybe make that enhanced remove your opponent's turn only. Or hell, if no move's a problem, keep it for either way.
We could see Bang coming back as a provisional promo or plus ultra card. We don't know.
Well, we've got Blood Curdle. Blood Curdle's decent. Obviously we've got this new attack.
Yeah.
These are all offensive ways.
Yes, and that's it. We don't really have a defensive way to say maybe turn off a Jiro. That would be the big thing, right? Or maybe a Nomu or whoever, just to say you can't do your thing anymore this turn.
We had plenty of things in the past with those actions that if we blocked with, you would respond, remove, commit your opponent's character. There might have been a little bit too much character hate, so I feel as though they've skewed the other way.
Yeah.
With my hero.
The closest we've got is All Might 7, which requires blocking 3 things without having to commit All Might, which is quite... Post One with Nature, I don't know how hard that is anymore. But in the One with Nature meta, when I did transfer into All Might 7 / Ball Might in the RLE, I never triggered that commit your character ability once.
Well, he's only a 6-hander, right?
Yeah.
He does have an ability that could draw him cards, but assuming that you don't get to get that off, you're having to play this decision game between how much do you commit in your turn?
So you have
And
got chivalrous, you have got struggling, you have got ways to cheat that
yeah,
third block, but yeah, it's a lot harder. But I would like to see more defensive options come out along those lines. But I'd also like to see players building more defensively. That's one of the biggest arguments I get in with people on Discord when they're talking about Jiro, when they're talking about all these problem characters that we have now. We have the tools to handle these characters. You just don't want to build your deck thinking about defense. You just want to kill them before they kill you and not think about the backswing.
yeah. The game's in a very aggro state at the moment. I feel it's doing okay because we've got the rule about you can't attack turn one, so we're not seeing anything really aggressive.
I hate that rule so much. I hate that rule up until today when I've been playing Mina 1. Because I'm the only person shouting that Mina 1 should be able to attack turn 1 when they're going second. I know the golden rule says it has to explicitly say it breaks the rules, but Mina 1 says I may play this card as a form when I check it. So I'm just saying, if it says I can play that card as a form, I should be able to play that card as a form.
We either need to bring it back and do away with some of the mulligan that we have at the moment in the game. But I guess all the steps they've taken so far are in trying to balance player 2, like the disadvantage for being player 2. So I would like to see being able to attack turn 1 come back, but I feel then you're just going to end up with like hyper aggro decks. Like it wouldn't be impossible for Jiro to go off turn 1.
One thing I have noticed as when playing Mina and going up in the current 5-hand meta, going second as a 5-hander doesn't feel as bad as going first. Because you get that selective mulligan, so you've got more chances to have that build 4, build 5. You've got the chances of you dying at the minute turn 2 are ridiculously low, apart from Jiro and Tokiyami drawing ridiculously hot. So you can have a much better build turn majority of the time as a 5-hander going second than going first, especially moving into Midoriya 4.
Yeah. So Midoriya 4's modelled a bit over after Jackie Briggs.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of people in the community who were adamant that if you were playing Jackie Briggs and you won the dice roll, you choose to go second. No. Like, even when we could attack turn 1, the odds of you getting hit turn 1 was so incredibly low. Like, if you get win that dice roll, always go first. Especially in my hero, you get a full turn of immunity. You get to dictate the pace of the game. Like, if you want to take a second build turn in your second turn, then cool, you're just accepting that your opponent then gets first hit. And having that power is amazing. I will never tell a player that it's worthwhile to go second.
No, 100%.
It can feel less bad, but it's not the choice.
We've got Sabri.
I've been playing a lot of All for One, right? That was the deck I was kind of on previously. And like obviously he gets this big kind of extra view and effectively a very much free momentum going second. You still just always pick first. You never pick second.
But you don't feel as bad going second after you've won the first game.
Oh yeah, you don't feel as bad.
No.
But you'd never choose it.
No. We've got Sabri saying cough cough Nomu. Yep, Nomu going second, being able to build 5 means that they're probably not dying. And Kenshin, it didn't help 4th cam versus Toga, but that's Jose, and Jose is just built different. You can't compare the god tier Jose plays to the average player. Ken and Kirk were masters of going second. If you're feeling spicy, I don't know who they are. Maybe have you got?
I've turn 1'd people plenty of times with Killick when going second. I've won dice. I know it says don't pick it, but I've won dice rolls and chose to go second against low health characters.
Yeah.
But I feel like your deck needs to be completely built around this. Like that deck was 40 attacks. It was coming in, for the best way to describe it.
It also puts more pressure on player 1 because although it's a low chance, if you can or may be attacked on the first turn, you're not as likely to go for build every single card in my hand. But at the minute, going first, it's a case of I might fail this check, I might pass it. I might as well just take the risk and try and build out my entire hand.
Yeah, there's absolutely no punishment at the moment.
I think we should probably start wrapping up because we don't want to go too long again. Big thank you to Mr. May for joining us, and we'll get you back in 2 weeks for the talking about pre-release.
Yeah, it was an absolute pleasure, guys.
Yeah,
thanks for coming, buddy. And yeah, good to have you again in a couple of weeks.
Check out the Dobbers because they've got some really good content on YouTube.
And I'm sure Brett will put the link in the description below when we get the YouTube video.
Yep.
But yeah, thanks everyone in chat for joining. And yeah, it's been great chatting, buddy. And yeah, we'll come back next week maybe with like a deck build or something else. We'll let you know. We'll let you guys know.
Yeah, we'll talk about if there's some big news between now and then. We may cover that, but Richard has been asking for us to go over how we build our decks, and I think that would be an interesting topic for us to cover next week. So
it seems like perfect timing as well.
Yeah.
If you do like covering deck building next week, and then you're going into building a sealed deck the week after.
Exactly, it's a good compare and contrast between going through that.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes absolutely perfect sense. Well, thanks for joining us, Richard. Thanks for joining me, Richard. Thanks for joining us, Michael. Thank you, everyone in chat, and I'll get this up on YouTube tomorrow.
Take care, everyone, and we'll speak soon.
Speak soon.
Bye.
Goodbye.